You know, Microsoft Intune is this incredibly powerful tool that lets you manage thousands of devices across your entire organization. But what happens when all that power gets turned against you? Today, we're going to break down how a real-world cyber attack weaponized Intune, and more importantly, what the official guidance says you need to do to stop it from happening to you.
And look, this isn't some theoretical what-if scenario. This quote is pulled directly from a bleeping computer report about a real attack on the medical tech giant Stryker. The bad guys got in, and they used the company's own management tools to just wreak havoc.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 80,000 devices wiped clean. The scale of it is just staggering. And here's the most chilling part. The attackers didn't deploy a single piece of traditional malware. Not one. They simply weaponized the very features designed to help manage the system.
Okay, so how do we stop this from happening to us? Well, first, we've got to understand how it happened in the first place. This attack on Stryker is a perfect, though pretty terrifying, case study for how these trusted tools can be turned into weapons.
You know what's really scary about this is how simple the attack was. It all started with a single compromised admin account. From there, the attackers bumped up their privileges by creating a brand new, all-powerful global administrator account. And once they had those keys to the kingdom, they had total control of Intune. And on March 11th, boom, they issued the wipe command, a dead simple sequence with an absolutely devastating result.
Now, this attack wasn't just some isolated incident that got a mention in the tech news. No, this was big enough to trigger a national response. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, they issued an urgent warning because they realized that what happened to Stryker could happen to absolutely anyone using these kinds of tools.
So what does this actually mean for you? It means this just got elevated to a national security issue. CISA is basically shouting from the rooftops that every single organization needs to harden their defenses like yesterday. This isn't just a friendly suggestion for best practices anymore. It's an urgent directive.
So how do you actually do that? Where do you even start? Luckily, we're not flying blind here. In response to these exact kinds of threats, Microsoft has laid out a really clear framework built on 3 core pillars of defense. So let's break them down.
Here they are, the 3 big strategies. First, start with least privilege. Second, embrace phishing-resistant authentication. And third, enable multi-admin approval. Let's think of it this way. The first one is about containment. The second is like putting the best possible locks on your digital doors. And the third is kind of like that classic 2-person rule for the most sensitive buttons, right? Okay, so knowing the theory is great. But how do we actually put these pillars into practice? Let's take a look at how these high-level ideas translate into concrete, real-world actions you can take to make your Intune environment way more resilient.
All right, pillar number 1, the principle of least privilege. The idea here is really simple, right? Don't hand out the master key to the entire building when a key to a single room is all that's needed. And this isn't just about limiting what an admin can do, but also which devices and users they can affect.
So let's get practical. Here's your action plan. Start by doing an inventory of who has those super powerful global admin roles. Ditch them wherever you can. Use specific built-in roles like help desk operator instead. Then, use things like scope tags to make sure the US help desk can't accidentally mess with devices in Europe. And finally, use tools like Microsoft Entra PIM, that's privileged identity management. It's like having to check out the master key from security for just an hour, instead of getting to carry it around 24/7.
Okay, on to pillar number 2. This one's all about what we call privileged access hygiene. The whole point is to make it an absolute nightmare for an attacker to get their hands on these powerful accounts, and even if they do, to make it just as hard for them to actually use them.
And this slide really nails the difference between the old, risky way and the right way. Having that kind of standing access, where an admin is a super user 24/7, even when they're sleeping, is just a huge, glowing target. The better way is time-bound or just-in-time access. That means the power is only granted when it's needed for a short time and with approval. It shrinks the window of opportunity for an attacker down to almost nothing.
The big takeaway here, it's all about defense in depth. You got to build layers. Use conditional access policies to make sure admins are logging in from the right places. Mandate phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication for all your privileged roles. Use dedicated secure workstations for your most sensitive tasks. And yeah, you need a plan for advanced threats like token theft. It's a true, multi-layered strategy. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, Multi-admin approval. Honestly, you should think of this as your ultimate safety net. It's a simple concept. For the most dangerous, high-impact actions, like, wiping every device in the company, one person shouldn't be able to just click a button and make it happen. A second, authorized admin has to look it over and give the thumbs up first.
So how do you set this up? You need a clear game plan. First, identify those really high-impact changes. Device wipes and deploying new scripts are probably at the top of your list. Then, define who's allowed to be an approver. And this is super important. You absolutely need an emergency break glass procedure documented, so you can still act fast in a real crisis without throwing all your rules out the window.
Okay, I know that was a ton of information, but don't feel overwhelmed. Getting started doesn't have to be some monumental project. Let's boil all of this down to a simple checklist of the most effective first steps you can take right now.
All right, here it is, your quick wins checklist. First, go inventory and shrink those all-powerful, always-on admin roles. Replace them with roles that have just enough power and nothing more. Second, enforce strong, modern authentication for every single admin, no exceptions. And third, put your most dangerous commands, like device wipes, behind that two-person approval process. Just doing these three things will massively improve your security posture.
So, I want to leave you with this one final question. After seeing what can happen, you really have to ask yourself, is your administration protected by design, a system of checks and balances, or is it just protected by trust, hoping that no one with power ever makes a mistake or gets their account compromised? The answer to that question could be the difference between business as usual and 80,000 wiped devices.